Okay, so this video we're going to talk about how basically your mental health can be affected by having a loved one in the hospital. So not just them themselves um going through something, you know, physically and mentally, but you as well. Because if you're a person who truly cares for this person, whether it's your parent, your child, your significant other, good friend, whatever it is, you know, just them being in the hospital, just that itself can stress you out. But then with the current atmosphere that we got going on with hospitals now, especially in the inner cities, especially in parts of the inner city that aren't the richest, like places like like the Bronx and so on, where a lot of these private hospitals are being bought up by corporations, and the corporations only care about money. So the nurses, a lot of them are quitting because they're overworked and underpaid. They might have to do a mandated double shift or something like that. And then if they were to get a really good doctor, well seasoned doctor or physician's assistant, that might cost money. So what do? They get these people fresh out of med school who don't really know what the heck they're doing, right? So what basically the nurse probably knows more than them. Let's get real, right? And when you got these conditions going on, you know, whether you're the patient or the patient's loved one, it can leave you in a jacked up situation. Because not only you angry, depressed, all kinds of feelings, just because your loved one's in the hospital, but now you feel like, you've given them to amateurs. And, whereas in the past, you might have bring them to the hospital, prayed, but you knew a professional person, a person that was well seasoned in their field, you left them in their hands. Now you're leaving them with a person that you might know more from watching House or ER back in the day or some medical station on TV than the people that are giving care to your family members. So it might actually give you like a mild form or even more than mild form of PTSD. I know in my case, I can't physically leave my mother in any hospital without me being there every day and being there for long periods of time because I've seen it, whether it's in the ER, sometimes in the ICU, or on regular floor, shit drops off. You know, in my mother's case, my mother has COPD, right, and asthma, sleep apnea, stuff like that. So she has to sleep with a sleep apnea machine, otherwise she can get sick, right? And now any hospital she's been in, they know this. But when it's time to get the machine so she doesn't get sick, they drag their feet. Or they're just acting completely unprofessional or whatever. Um, and in the most recent case, several inconsistencies among several different doctors and several different personal physician's assistants to where it's like where one doctor back in the day would have all this knowledge, you need to seek a little bit, and this can be stressful. Just the whole situation in general. Your loved one in the hospital, you stressed out, you got to be there like a hawk. You may be knowing more medically information than these people who went to school for it. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. So I would say, you know, you have to sometimes find an outlet, but you also have to be there for the person too. Because if you're not there for them, anything can slip through the cracks. You know, like I said, the nurses a lot of times know more than the doctors. The doctors aren't there for a few days and then they're gone. And then there's someone else there. Whereas the nurses are kind of around. Another thing you have to watch out is for social workers in hospitals. They're kind of, famous for just discharging you with, you know, like way before you need to be discharged or not having everything set up. You know, in my mother's case in the past, they discharged her and she still had liquid in her lungs and had to go to another hospital and get the liquid taken out. Another time, when they first discovered that my mother had sleep apnea and COPD, and they prescribed her this machine for her to sleep with, and she was going to need an oxygen machine at the house. You plug it in, it produces oxygen for the machine. And the social worker was about to discharge my mom with no oxygen machine at the house because they just get discharge happy. So that's another thing you have to watch out for. And when your loved one is older, they get discharge happy and they try to push them towards a nursing home, even if they got stuff set up, like they have home care set up. They already have home health aides. They already have insurance. They have a hospital bed. They have this, they have that. They'll still try to push them towards it. And if you don't have a loved one there, they'll end up in a nursing home or rehab. And they don't even need to be. They could be at home, Or they might try to enroll them into a program that has nothing to do with what they got going on. Like they'll try to send them into hospice and the person ain't about to die. These are the kind of things that go on in the hospitals. These are the kind of things that can drive you crazy as an advocate for your family member, as well as the patient. So, and unfortunately, with the current state of hospitals, this is only due to get worse. Unless you happen to fortunately live in one of these, in close proximity to one of these more wealthier areas, and you can have a chance to go to these better hospitals. But if you live in the Bronx or somewhere like it, sometimes it is all you have to deal with, especially if it's in the case of emergency, and it's very unfortunate.